Hi everyone, it's Kim Bopney, the Vagina Coach, and in this video we are going to coordinate our Kegels with inner thigh activation and transversus abdominis activation. So essentially inner thighs and deep abdominals, the transversus, in conjunction with Kegels has been proven in research to actually heighten the recruitment or the activity in the pelvic floor. So we have research to support that Kegel exercises, which is a voluntary contract and lift and let go of the pelvic floor muscles, is effective. However, when compared with movements that also combine the deep abdominals and the inner thighs, the activation of the pelvic floor was greater. So let's get more bang for our buck in this video. Before we get started, you're going to want something to squeeze, so something to put in between your legs. It could be, I have a squishy ball here, it could be a small pillow, it could be a folded up towel, it could be a yoga block, whatever you have, you just need something that you'll be able to put in between your thighs to squeeze. That will help activate the adductors, the inner thighs, which also help influence the pelvic floor as well. The other thing I want to run through is a couple of different cues to help you activate the pelvic floor, but also help you activate those deep abdominal muscles. So pelvic floor cues, if you haven't already watched my core breath video, I invite you to go and check that video out. I go through a bunch of different cues in there. The most popular cues that I find my clients comment on, the people in my app comment on, are number one, blueberries. So think about picking up a blueberry with your vagina and your anus as you exhale. That's the number one most popular. Number two would be think of sipping a smoothie through a straw with your vagina. That's number two. And the other one is jellyfish. So they think of their pelvic floor soft and floaty like a jellyfish in the water. And then when the jellyfish wants to move, the edges come together and it propels itself up to the surface of the ocean. So those are just three images or three visualizations. There's no best cue. It's which one is best for you. Research shows that an anal, like a butt, initiated movement, so the blueberries with your anus, is superior. However, again, it's dependent on the person. All sorts of things can factor into it. So I would invite you to try all three of those and see which one you think works. And then you can also check that out when you see your pelvic floor physiotherapist. So next time you go visit, try out different cues. They might have some of their own as well. You might even visualize some of your own cues and see which one elicits the best response. So that's pelvic floor cues. From a transversus perspective, the transversus abdominis is, people call it the corset muscle, so it wraps around us and it co-contracts with the pelvic floor. So when we have a pelvic floor engagement, there's also a co-contraction, or there should be a co-contraction of the deep abdominals, which is a drawing inwards movement. You might have heard the term pull your belly button to your spine, which is a cue used in many fitness programs to help activate the transversus. Because it co-activates with the pelvic floor, I prefer a bottom-up strategy where you engage the pelvic floor first and then potentially add on the transversus cue. And that's what we're going to do today, because that's what we've had shown in research, that it does elicit a bit bigger response. So from a cueing perspective with the transversus, yes, we have the one that is pull the belly button to the spine. What I want to make sure though is when that happens that there's no tucking, there's no gripping, that it's not an over-activation. However, that might be the right cue for you. The other one is you can imagine that you have a guy wire between your two hip bones and you can imagine tensioning, so kind of drawing together. The other image would be closing the book. Or the one that I like, that I personally use in my own body, is to think about a zipper almost. So when you think about we're wanting to close a zipper. So I come from the bottom, I'm engaging the pelvic floor, and then I'm adding on that activation that's closing the zipper. So those are a couple of cues that we're going to use in this workout. So go grab whatever it is that you want to squeeze. Check out some of those cues maybe before we get started, and then we're going to move into, we're going to have, I think we've got 4 or 5 movements that we're going to add this philosophy into that will help you activate your pelvic floor, your deep core, and it will give you a little bit of a lower body workout as well. So we are going to start on our back in a supine position. So lower yourself down, have your squeezy, whatever it is with you. And I want you to be in a fairly neutral pelvis position. So your feet are going to be fairly close into your bum with your shins vertical. And I want you to check in with your pelvis, and you want the hip bones and the pubic joint to be in the same plane. So I'm just lowering my leg to show you that. So you don't want to press your back into the mat, which brings your pubic joint higher. We want a gentle curve in the low back, but we don't want an excessive curve, which would bring the hip bones higher. So we want to be in a nice neutral spine, bit of a curve in the low back. Then you're going to take whatever it is that you have to squeeze, and you're going to put it in between your thighs. So what we're going to do, if you've watched my core breath video, you know how I cue you to inhale and expand, which means expanding in the ribs, inflating, kind of an overflow of your breath into the belly, and then an expansion or a lengthening of the pelvic floor. And then when we exhale, we activate. So we use a cue, such as the blueberries, the milkshake, or the jellyfish, to activate. In this particular routine, what we're going to do is we're going to activate pelvic floor. We're going to then add a bit of a squeeze. So we're going to activate the inner thighs. And then we're also going to think about that either closing the book or zipping up, depending on which cue works for you. So it's going to be pelvic floor, inner thigh, transversus. Then we're going to hold for 5 seconds, and then we're going to release. We're going to do 10 repetitions. We're going to do that in this position, then 3 or 4 other positions as well. All right, so starting on our back, I'm going to inhale and I'm going to expand. You can watch my belly and my ribs. I'm going to exhale, activate my pelvic floor, inner thighs, zip up and hold. You want to make sure you're not holding your breath while you're doing this, so we still keep breathing. It'll just be a little bit more shallow. 1 more second, and we release. Inhale and expand. Exhale, activate. Holding here. And inhale and expand. Release the inner thighs, open that zipper. Exhale, activate. Adductors, zipper. Hold for 5 seconds. You can also see when I'm doing any of these activations, you see some movement here, but inhale and expand and release, but you don't see me tucking or any other movement happening here, so it stays nice and still. Okay, inhale, exhale, pelvic floor, inner thighs, zipper, hold, and release. Exhale, activate. Inhale, release. Let's do 4 more. Exhale. And release. Exhale, pelvic floor first, inner thighs, close the book, hold, and release. Last 2, exhale, pelvic floor, thighs, transversus. Inhale, release. Last one, exhale, pelvic floor, inner thighs, close the book, hold. And release. Now we're going to make this a little bit harder. So this is effective. We have research to support that this is effective, and if that's all you do, that's great, and it will heighten your Kegel practice. But we also want to recognize that we move. So how can we make this a bit more dynamic? And also that we are upright against gravity. So I'm going to start that transition by coming over onto all fours. And again, put your squeezy, whatever it is, in between your knees. I'll be on a little bit of an angle here. Onto all fours, you want your wrists beneath your shoulders, and you want your knees beneath your hips. Toes are going to be tucked under. There is an exercise called the hover or the bear where you come up slightly off the ground. That would be a progression. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to squeeze, and we're not going to lift our knees up off the ground. So first is going to be an inhale and expand. In this position, you can also imagine your sit bones spreading apart while you inhale. Then we're going to do, again, pelvic floor activation, squeeze, and then that closing of the book or drawing the belly button into the spine. Okay, so here we go. Exhale, pelvic floor, squeeze, and close the book. Hold, and you want to make sure, again, I'm not losing that gentle curve in my low back, so I'm not tucking under here. I'm staying in a nice neutral spine position. Inhale. Release, let go of that squeeze. Exhale, sip your smoothie, squeeze the thighs, close the book, and hold. Remember to keep breathing. Inhale, release. Good. Exhale, blueberries, squeeze the ball, and close the book. Inhale, release. Exhale, jellyfish. Squeeze the ball, zip up, and hold. And release. Exhale, pelvic floor. Squeeze, zip. And release. Let's do 5 more. Exhale, pelvic floor, squeeze, belly button to the spine, hold, and release. Exhale, pelvic floor, squeeze, transversus, and hold. Last 3, pelvic floor, squeeze, transversus, and hold. Keep that breath, even though it's shallow, keep breathing. Inhale, release. Letting go of the squeeze, letting go of the belly, letting go of the pelvic floor. Now exhale, activate pelvic floor first. Squeeze, transversus. Inhale, release. Exhale, pelvic floor, squeeze, belly button to the spine, and hold. Last one, exhale, pelvic floor, squeeze, belly button to spine, and release. All right, next level. We're gonna come and we're gonna sit. So I've got a stability ball here. If you don't have a ball, that's okay. You could sit on a chair or a bench or a staircase, placing the ball in between the thighs. Staying in a neutral pelvis position here again, so you wanna make sure that you are on your sit bones and you're not sitting tucked under, so you want to have that gentle curve in the low back. So from a side view, making sure we have that curve, so we don't want to be tucked under here. So lengthening that tailbone away from us, putting the vulva on the surface of your chair or your ball. And now you have the squeezy ball. Sitting up nice and tall, you're going to inhale and expand. Exhale, activate pelvic floor first. Squeeze the ball, belly button to the spine, and hold. Inhale, release. Exhale, pelvic floor. Let's do jellyfish. Squeeze, transversus, hold. Inhale, release. Exhale, blueberries. Squeeze, close the book. And release. Exhale, milkshake. Squeeze, zip up. Inhale, release. Exhale, pelvic floor. Squeeze, transversus. and release. Exhale, pelvic floor. Squeeze, close your book. Okay, let's do 4 more here, just turning to face you so you can see my leg activation here too. So inhale, exhale, activate. Let's do jellyfish. Squeeze and close the book. Hold, keep breathing. Everything is up and held in nice and tight. Inhale, release. Let everything go. Exhale, blueberries. Inner thighs. Close the book. Hold. Inhale, release. Exhale, jellyfish. Squeeze. Zip everything up. Inhale, release. Exhale, sip a smoothie. Squeeze, zip, and hold. And release. Let's do one more. Exhale, whatever cue works best for you. Squeeze and zip. Inhale, release. Okay, now we're gonna make that a little bit harder still. We're gonna come upright and we're gonna stand. Ball in between the legs. So we're standing with our feet pelvis width apart. And same principles are going to apply here. And we don't want to, well, we want to make sure that in the position that we're standing that we don't have our weight shifted really far forward. So you want to back your pelvis up, nod your pubic joint forward. So we're getting those hip bones and pubic joint in the same plane. Our perineum, which is in between the vagina and the anus, is over the space between the ankles. And you want to make sure that your ribs are over top of your pelvis and they're not thrust forward. Okay, so there's your standing position. Same principles now. Inhale, expand, so lengthen the pelvic floor. Soften in the belly, we're expanding in the ribs. Exhale, activate pelvic floor. Squeezing the inner thighs, zipping up. Hold. And inhale. And release. Exhale, pelvic floor first. Inner thighs. Zipping everything up. Hold. And release. Exhale, pelvic floor, inner thighs, zip. Inhale to release. Exhale, jellyfish, inner thighs, zip up. Inhale, release. Exhale, blueberries, inner thighs, zipper. So this is a really subtle movement. There's not a lot to see here, not a lot to do, but it's very effective and it's an amazing deep core workout. Activate, inner thighs, zipper, and hold. Good, release. And last one, exhale. Pelvic floor first. Inner thigh, activate, zip everything up and hold. And release. Let's do one bonus exercise. This is the one that really ups the ante because we're adding in some dynamic movement. So we're gonna go down into a squat position. We're gonna keep the ball in between our legs. We're gonna inhale as we lower down into the squat. Then as we exhale, we're gonna activate pelvic floor. And then as we stand up, we're gonna also activate those inner thighs by squeezing that ball. And we're gonna be thinking about that zipper, or the closing the book, or the pulling the belly button to the spine. So there's a lot to think about in this movement. So here we go. We're gonna inhale, stick our bum back, Lengthening the pelvic floor, belly is soft. Now we're gonna exhale, activate the pelvic floor. First, standing up, squeezing that ball, and thinking about belly button into the spine. Inhale, let everything go. Exhale, pelvic floor. Squeeze and lift as we stand back up. Inhale. Exhale. Exhale, pelvic floor, squeezing those thighs as we stand back up, zipping everything up. Inhale, lengthen, everything goes away. Exhale. Exhale. Let's do 2 more. Exhale. And last one. Exhale. And we're done. So there you have a really effective Kegel practice that targeted the inner thighs. We also got a little glute activation in there, and those deep abdominals. So remembering that the pelvic floor and the deep abdominals co-contract. And when we add on some visualization, we get some heightened response in the pelvic floor. When we add on the visualization in the abdominal wall, we also get some heightened activation. And when we added that gentle squeeze of the inner thighs, we really upped the ante. So thanks for working out with me today. We'll see you next time.